Hey everyone, guess what? We're here with fucking Zartan or Gus Rios from Cold Slither and Gruesome and Union Black and Left to Die and I'm sure 1,000 other fucking things because
Too many.
what musician, yeah, what musician doesn't keep their hand in all the pots, right?
You kind of have to these days.
Yeah. Well, I said it before, I'll say it again. I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and sit and chat with me, particularly about Cold Slither. What a fucking killer concept that is.
Oh man, I was a lifelong GI Joe fan and metalhead. Obviously, like it's just the you know the connection of two of my favorite things on planet Earth. Literally, like it's pretty unbelievable for me. I'm
Yeah,
I'm super grateful to be here.
it's cool. I think we're pretty comparable in age. So, I remember growing up watching, G.I. Joe and Cobra and all that. And it was like, fuck, man, I miss those days, you know?
I mean, I remember even at the advent of eBay. And I remember going on there and like seeing all the toys, and I just started buying all that stuff right back up. I remember going to Best Buy and seeing the cartoons on DVD. I bought that immediately. Like, I guess it went dormant for a while, but man, for the better part of, I don't even remember when eBay became a thing, like 2007 or 8 or what year, whatever year it was. Like, I'm, you know, I have a pretty substantial toy collection.
Hell yeah. Well, it's cool that we're able to, as adults with money, like go back and go, oh, that's cool. I remember that. Like, I want to have that again. Let me buy that. It's going on display. Because they don't, I feel like toys now and cartoons now aren't what they were when we were growing up, you know?
No, and it's interesting because, like, G.I. Joe is back in a big way in the form of the classified series, but that's obviously just a straight adult collector market. So, and I really like all of this Cold Slither stuff is 100%, it only happened because of the success of the classified series. Because, obviously, if Hasbro doesn't see a reason for it, or if they weren't pushing GI Joe, then like, what's the point of this idea? And this is an old idea. I was in a band called Malevolent Creation, God, 20 years ago, and we were on Nuclear Blast Records, and the label manager there was Gerardo Martinez, now of Reigning
RPM.
Phoenix,
Yeah.
RPM. And I don't remember how. I think one of us was wearing a GI Joe shirt, like literally probably the day we met. And we've learned that we both were these massive GI Joe fans. And he's had this idea brewing in his head for years and years and like decades. And he had a contact at Hasbro, and then that fell through. um, that was about 10 years ago. And fast forward to a year ago, almost to the day, like right around this time a year ago, he sends me a text message like, dude, you got to call me right now. And I was just finishing, literally, this was my last day in the studio doing drums for the Gruesome album. And I called him and he just said, hey, I just got off the phone with Hasbro. And I just knew what he was about to say. And I was like, no way, dude. He's like, yes, it's going to happen. And, all, writing the music, and, it's been an amazing journey. It really has. It's, and I'm a real, like, GI Joe means a great deal to me. Like, I mean, I've had this tattoo for years and years and years. So, like, to be Zartan is just nuts, man, nuts.
That's fucking cool. Like, it's cool that it was like a long time culmination and not something that just happened like overnight. Like you're like, oh, we're gonna fucking do this. Okay. Boom. Oh shit, we're doing it. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I remember even telling my wife as I was recording demos and writing the songs, I was just like, something's gonna fall through. This can't happen. Like something's gonna fall through. Something's gonna fall through. Then I record, then I made the actual real recordings, the records mixed, the records turned in. I'm seeing the album cover, and there's a show booked, and I'm like, holy shit, man, this is happening. I'm Zartan. This is nuts.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, dude. I even went and got like the dreadnought tattoo
That's so
because
fucking
no matter
awesome.
what, at the end of the day, whether it ends, we're playing July 24th. Whether it ends that day and there's never anything else Cold Slither, like I will always be the guy that wrote the Cold Slither record. I'm a dreadnought for life. So
Hell yeah, you are.
tattoos warranted.
That's fucking cool. And that's really cool that they've got you guys playing the San Diego Comic Con because I think the album comes out. You guys play the 24th. The album comes out on the 25th, right?
Yeah.
Hell
So,
yeah.
and their Hasbro is, obviously their Comic Con exclusive is the figure set for Cold Slither. So it all just works. So yeah, I mean to be the guy. it's still just I don't even obviously until you're there and you're like in it and you're doing it, I don't even think the full scope of it is like really kind of hit me yet. And these are the first sets of interviews that I did. Like, and I couldn't talk about this for the better part of a year. I couldn't say it to even my close friends. I couldn't say anything.
You're like bursting at the seams, like, dude, I'm fucking
Totally. I
Zartan.
remember being at the gym and some guy had a Cobra shirt on, and I was just like, you only knew, dude. But I'm excited to be able to talk about it now.
Hell yeah. What was the writing process like for you?
Um, I knew, it was a heavy metal band from 1985. Um, and obviously coming from like a death metal, thrash metal background, you would think I would write this like super crazy stuff, but I purposely wanted to write music that metal fans would dig, but you don't necessarily have to be a metal fan, and hopefully you like it too. So it's not really over the top heavy.
Right.
I try to write catchy melodic choruses, and like just try to write a record that would have some sort of mass appeal.
Yeah, it was it's got like some tradition, of course, some traditional like heavy metal elements, and it does have some of those, thrashier times in it, which is really fucking cool for, those of us who prefer the heavier side. But I think you nailed it. I think it'll appeal to the masses, especially knowing like what G.I. Joe means to so many people, because the feel throughout the whole thing, like, dude, I could put G.I. Joe on and turn off everything and just listen to the fucking album and watch it go, and it feels like it's right in place.
I mean, my hope is, and again, because yes, GI Joe means a great deal to a lot of people. I hope eventually the word gets out that the person that curated this whole thing and the person that wrote the music are both real genuine GI Joe guys. Like we really love GI Joe. Like I wrote an article recently for Decibel magazine, that I called "The Toys That Saved Me." Like, not to get into it, but like my childhood was a bit rough, and for me, GI Joe was where I learned right from wrong. It's like those guys were my friends. I looked up to them. They were my moral compass in a lot of ways. Them, Optimus Prime, like all the '80s stuff, He-Man, Star Wars, like all that stuff really shaped who I would become as a man. And this record was kind of my love letter to GI Joe, almost as a way to give thanks, man. So I hope that comes across.
I think. I think it does. I think it's cool as fuck that you have that experience because for a lot of us, right, we were what the first generation where both parents were working and so many of our parents were divorced and so far into drugs and alcohol and all of those other things. So we relied on the Saturday morning cartoons and the fucking after school specials and that kind of shit to really help guide us and shape us, right? And then as we get older, we mix it with heavy metal and it's like, hold on, I have good morals and I like really heavy shit. Like, I'm still a good person. Thank you, to all the
I mean, it's funny. I have this argument with my mother's incredibly religious, and I tell her all the time. I go, dude, heavy metal is the most positive music in the world. It does nothing but bring people together. If you and I didn't know each other, and I saw you at a store and you're wearing a King Diamond shirt and you got tattoos, I don't know you, but I know we're already cool with each other.
yeah,
It's a very positive thing. And a lot of people just can't get past the imagery, and they think like, especially like with like the satanic stuff or the death metal bands, they think like we go around eating babies and sacrificing virgins, and it's like, dude, you know what I mean? Like nobody does that except maybe
right.
some of the Norwegian guys, but um, by and large, like every metal person I know is just like a good person that's just loves metal. And for me to be able to hopefully bring some of that metal community and the toy community together, I would suspect there's probably several metalheads in our age group that maybe haven't even thought about GI Joe in a long time, and I'm hoping that if the Cold Slither record makes it to their ears, it sparks that little like, oh man, I used to love GI Joe, and like all the episodes are on YouTube, like you can totally reconnect with it.
Yeah, it's super cool. I've got a buddy, my like he's like one of my best friends, a tattoo artist, huge GI Joe guy. When I heard this, I fucking pre-ordered the album and sent it to him so he could fucking have it. He's gonna shit his fucking, face off when he sees it.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you behind the scenes, every time, because obviously this is all Hasbro's IP, so I had to submit song titles for approval. I had to submit the lyrics for approval. Everybody in the band had to pass like a legit background check. Um, but which was it sounds like a bunch of red tape, but it really wasn't. Hasbro was super great with everything, and I think Hasbro knew that this was in the hands of people that truly cared. So they were like, hey, you guys, you know, it's like nobody critiqued any of the music. Like they were just like, oh, cool. Like, I remember the first song I wrote was the song Thunder Machine, and I submitted the demo, and I was like, this is what I think Cold Slither sounds like. It's the first original Cold Slither song. In my head, this is what this band sounds like. Hopefully you guys agree. And when Gerardo at RPM was like, hell yeah, and then the people at Hasbro loved it, I was like, okay, now let's go. I'm gonna write this whole shit.
Hell yeah. What so obviously Thunder Machine was that first one. Is there another song on there for you that really like sticks out?
Man, I just tried to. There's like a real, you know, though there's like some super 80s kind of like the song Knock 'em Dread, I think is a very 80s metal song. There's a song called Torched, which is very like Bay Area thrash.
Yeah.
There's a song called Snakes on the Bayou, which is very Sabbathy. So, I don't know. I just try to write a bunch of stuff that I don't know, like just this kind of mixed grab bag of all like this 80s metal influence stuff. And then I had the idea, which is a more 90s idea, to put a bunch of the samples from the cartoon in there. And as soon as I did the first one, I was like, oh man, I love this because you're hearing the actual Dreadnoks voices. It
Yeah.
just sort of pulls you in and like ties it all together. So the samples and going through all the episodes and finding all the coolest quotes was one of the funnest aspects of the whole record, actually.
Did it help you like reconnect with, all that shit growing up?
I mean, no, because I had all my connection with them has been, I've been very, very aware of what this has meant to me for quite some time now. Um, even like recently, I met Peter Cullen, who was the voice of Optimus Prime, and that was like a super emotional moment for me. Like I'm very aware of what these characters mean to me. So, I even knew off the top of my head, like, oh, I'm going to go to this episode and I'm going to grab this part and I'm going to go to this episode and I'm going to grab, like, I knew kind of where to go. And then I would just find stuff that I forgot about that I was like, oh man, that's so sick. And we would grab that too. So it was a super, the whole thing was a fun process. Writing the lyrics was super fun. But it was, there was a fair amount of pressure too, because this means a lot to a lot of people. Like this
Oh yeah.
record's got to be right. And it's a pressure I've known because my other band, Gruesome, kind of lives in a similar world where we sort of try to embody the whole Chuck Schuldiner death thing. And we were trying to make these records that mean a lot to a lot of people, ourselves included, obviously. So you have this weight of like, man, we got to deliver, we got to deliver. And so it's a pressure I've known for over a decade at this point. So I just kind of knew what I needed to do. And you just kind of hope that the fans dig it, and ultimate you never know. I remember when the first single came out, which was a song Cold Slither, I was just like, man, I hope people just even like the way this sounds. And then even more kind of pressure was when the first original song came out. This is now a song I wrote. This is what I think this band sounds like. Are people going to hate it or are they going to love it? And, thankfully, it seems like most people really liked it. Everybody, I read a couple of comments, man, this doesn't sound like what Cold Slither sounds like. And fair enough, everybody has their, especially for a band that's, fictional, that didn't really have any music, you kind of have your own idea of what it's supposed to sound like. I'm just the guy that was fortunate enough to be tasked with writing it, and this was what I thought it was, what they sounded like. Hopefully,
Yeah,
people
it's
dig it.
well, it's almost like, directors remaking movies. Sometimes they remake them really good, and sometimes they remake them, and you're like, oh man, I would have did something different, there. Like, but again,
It's fun.
it's opinion, right?
I thinking about it a bit lately. Like I think about J.J. Abrams and Star Wars. The big difference between me and him is I didn't have a corporation breathing down my neck with any kind of agendas. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Hasbro just needed to and I kind of knew I'm not going to write a song called Zartan guts a pig, or whatever. Like I know the parameters.
Yeah.
So, I submitted like 9 song titles and they sort of suggested 3 more. And then I literally wrote the lyrics based on the song titles. And I knew that they had to fit within the Hasbro PC kind of, toy world. But I did try to make them. There's a song in particular called "The Ballad of Buzzer," and when you go into his backstory, like there's a lot of psychology and trauma within the Dreadnought. So there's some kind of real stuff, and like just kind of like the cartoons, there's some real stuff. If you peel back a couple of layers, there's some real stuff in there. And so, I wrote these, very toyetic lyrics, but some of it is, has some substance to it. So it was just such a cool process, and Hasbro really didn't, I didn't have that. Hey, the music needs to be like this. I had none of that. They kind of once
Let
they
you
okayed
kind of
that
free
first song,
reign,
they were
huh?
like, yeah, yeah. They kind of just let me roll, and every song I turned in, they're like, yeah, killer, love it. Yeah, killer, love it. So it
That's
was
super
like,
cool.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah, it
says a
was
lot
great.
about you, about your respect for, the G.I. Joe franchise and you as a songwriter, you know?
Yeah, and I think, once Hasbro knew who was behind all of this, they kind of, I'm sure, felt comfortable. Okay, this is in the hands of someone that's has an emotional connection to this IP. He's gonna give it his all, which I did. Like I poured my heart and soul into making this record happen. Um, I sincerely, really sincerely hope people enjoy it, and I hope that there's a demand, and I would love to go on tour with it.
Hell yeah. I'd love for you to go on tour with it. Like, I want to see this live, but my caveat is you guys have to dress up.
No, no, yeah, of course, we definitely. I mean, I went. I got the yellow pants, I got the boots, I got the shirt, I got the wig. I'm gonna do the corpse paint, basically. Yeah, we're doing all of that, man. Yeah, and
Hell
that's been
yeah.
super fun. I mean, it's like playing a role.
Yeah. Dude, it's like everything you want as a kid. Like when I grow up, I'm gonna do this, and here you are like doing it, you know?
It's it's pretty mind blowing how all of this is kind of played out. Like it's now that I can talk about it. Like I went to my local toy store, like adult toy store, not adult toy store,
A toy
like
store
GI Joe
for
collectible.
adults. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, GI Joe toy store. And when I got to tell the owner of that what I was doing, he was just, man, that's so cool. Everybody's just super excited and stoked on it. So, um, I hope it has some longevity, I guess. Dude, I would love to write another Cold Slither record. I would love to do a follow up. But all of that, honestly, is in the hands of the public. So,
Yeah.
if the demand is there, I'll make more.
Well, I feel like I really enjoy it. I think it's a outside of it being, particularly about G.I. Joe, I think it's a good, solid album. Like it's super listenable. There's not a there's not a time in it where you're like, this
No,
kind of
hold on, we
sucks,
got a hiccup here.
Uh-oh. There you are.
I mean, I think I understood what you're saying, which is honestly, dude, and I'm very honestly, sincerely grateful. Verbatim, that was what I said to Gerardo. I go, my goal, personal goal with this record is that outside of G.I. Joe and the lyrical content and what it's supposed to be, I want people to be like, man, these are killer songs that I would just want to listen to anyway. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm super happy to hear that.
Yeah, of course it's I don't want to call it a shtick, right? But it because it's so much more than that. It's like the passion you have for G.I. Joe and all of that really it comes through on it. And I honestly think that there's gonna be a lot of people who are like, holy fuck, this is this is so much better than what I thought it would be.
I mean, it's interesting you use that word because I think there's this resurgence, even amongst young people, for honesty in their music again. I think people are looking for honesty. Like even recently, like on YouTube, there's this big like, man, you guys aren't even really playing the stuff. Like people are looking for honesty again, and I think that's the one thing that I don't care if you can hate the music or not, but the one thing you can't tell me is that it's dishonest. Um, it's almost like a similar conversation I have about Gruesome records. Like you can hate what we do, but you can't say that it's coming from a disingenuous place. Like everything I do musically, I only do it because it means something to me. I don't do it for the money. I mean, I'm not a millionaire, so
Right.
I don't get rich off death metal records, nor do I think I'm going to get rich off Cold Slither.
Yeah. No, and that's you're right. I think right now is a it's a time that people are looking for people being genuine, being authentic, with everything that they do. I mean, we're lied to every day, so like what, not even about who's lying to us, but like who's gonna be real, who's doing something that I can get behind because they believe in. their mission statement or whatever.
And honestly, even when it comes to the world of, these intellectual properties, to know that there was something made, obviously, listen, man, I'm not stupid. At the end of the day, Hasbro wants to make money and Reigning Phoenix wants to sell records. But I can tell you that, I personally haven't taken a single dime for any of this. And Gerardo at Reigning Phoenix, like, he's not driven by money with this particular record. He's like a giddy kid. He's like sending me the album cover, and he's like, "Dude, look at this," and "Oh, dude, look at this," and "Oh, dude, look at this," and we're just like two kids, real, like, living out this fantasy. That's, in other words, like, there's always this commercial component to something. Like Star Wars in particular, it's sort of lost some of that, I don't know, magic or whatever. It feels diluted. This record, at least, I can tell you, is not that. This is, the people involved in the creative part of it. This comes from here.
Oh yeah. God, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a little jealous that I'm not gonna be at the San Diego Comic Con to see you all play. I think that's gonna be for G.I. Joe fans, it's gonna be a really special fucking moment.
Man, it'll be. I kind of, I'm trying to not get into my head too much about it. You know what I mean? Like, part of me is just like, hey, it's a gig, and I handle every gig the same way, whether I'm on tour with one of my bands in front of 10,000 people at a festival, or I'm playing a wedding here at home, playing Bruno Mars songs. Like, I handle every gig with the same level of professional care and, self-respect, quite frankly. So, I'm definitely going to just play the best show I can, but man, there's a lot of potential for, like, cool stuff. I mean, it's Comic-Con. There's already a bunch of cosplayers there. So, there is a chance that Shipwreck shows up, or Duke, or Firefly, or any of these guys, like Cobra Commander. Like, all kinds of stuff could happen at the show. And I'm just going to, like, I'm going to have to, like, kind of contain myself even on stage, and just, stay in the professional music mindset to get through it, because it's going to be amazing, man.
Yeah. God, that would be fucking cool to have, the G.I. Joe guys just pull up and like, what are you doing? Like, oh
Oh
fuck.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I've already had the idea. Like, they show up and they try to stop the show, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm just here playing rock and roll, man. I don't know Cobra going on here. I don't know what you guys are trying to do. And then, you think about the twins come out, and they're like the businessmen for the band, and they're like, no, 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 these guys are just here contractual. It's all kinds of stuff. So, it's at the end of the day, and I think they're going to film the whole thing. So, it'll make its way to everybody. Everybody will eventually get to see it, whether it's on YouTube or whatever. But, hopefully that creates the spark that makes it go on tour. Because, again, like, selfishly speaking, I would love for this to go on tour.
Yeah, fuck me too. I'm like, bring it to me now, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, man.
again, it's such a cool fucking concept, and that it's like finally coming to fruition is really exciting. And knowing that the music again, super listenable, and it's got those throwback elements. I could absolutely, I said it before, I can say it again, and I fucking will. I can watch G.I. Joe and listen to this album, and I feel like it's right in place.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Sincerely.
How do you feel like with the finished product? Is there something that you feel you could improve upon with a
You
potential
know,
next
with
album?
every record you ever make, there's always this, man, I wish I would have done this. But I overall, honestly, man, I'm really, the guy I had mix it is this guy, Matt LaPlante. I think he did a super excellent job. Same, he's kind of our age, and, he cared about G.I. Joe, and he knew how much this meant to me. And, he really wanted to knock it out of the park. So I'm super happy with the mix. you know, I would have loved to have just kept writing more and more songs. Honestly, man, like I just, I hope we do another record, man. That would be amazing.
Hell yeah. Fuck, I do too. I would love to have a fucking Cold Slither 20 years later, like they're on their 10th fucking album. Like, holy shit.
Well, I mean, I'm 48 years old, man. you know, there's the hourglass is turned over, so
You got 20 years left, at least.
knock on wood, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm 49 and I'm like, God, I know I've probably got 20 years left and I don't know that I want it sometimes. As weird
I
as that
mean,
sounds.
yeah, no, believe me, man, I totally get what you're saying. Like, hey, man, I don't even want to make it to a certain age.
Yeah, yeah, no, me neither. But I want to enjoy what I have, you know? And
No, and I think, I think it's a matter of like finding the gratitude and which is not my stopping to smell the roses is not my natural default. So I have to like, almost like you put
be
your nose in
conscious
shit,
about it.
you put your nose in that flower and things aren't so bad. So, we're both
Yeah.
sitting in our couches with a roof over our heads and cool metal shirts on and, some good ink, like, things could be worse.
Yep. Yeah, I got my cat next to me. I'm fucking things could definitely be
Yeah,
worse.
my cats keep running around, trying to interrupt us, but they're behaving themselves.
Yeah, my dogs are upstairs asleep, so I'm like, okay, we're good. Like, as long as the mailman doesn't come, I'm fucking I'm good. Assholes. No, I love my dogs.
All right, well, I got to run because I got another interview that I got to do here. I'm already 10 minutes late for, but
Oh shit.
man, great chat with
Cool.
you.
You too,
It's
Gus.
always everything you said today, man. Sincerely, it means a lot to me. It gives me a great deal of confidence to know that like a GI Joe metalhead fan really liked the actual record. So, man, thank you so much for this conversation. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, dude. I appreciate it more than you know. Time is the most valuable thing that we have. Once it's gone, it never comes back. So, um, go have yourself a great day and crush that interview, dude.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.